With the iPhone 16 series, Apple introduced the all-new button being the camera control button. Now, if you're coming from an iPhone 15, you honestly really won't notice much of a difference until you get to the camera control button. Now, we're going to be talking about the camera control button because it's actually a very interesting button, and I also think setting us up for the future of Apple buttons. So, for those of you who don't know, the new camera control button is essentially just a quick way to launch the camera, as you can just press it and open the camera. But it's also going to do Apple Intelligence stuff. So, coming with iOS 18.2 in December, you're going to be able to visually look up stuff. So as Apple showcased in their event, you can basically point it at a poster and have it visual look up it and then say, you want to add this to your calendar, go ahead, take a picture of someone's dog, it'll identify their dog, it'll be able to just basically Google Lenses and image lookup for you and pull out that important data. So maybe you have this giant poster, you don't want to, you're in a rush, you don't want to add it to your contact, just like Apple does with photos of stuff where you can just add it to your calendar and stuff. You will be able to do that now straight from your basically camera button, which I think is really cool. But what's actually very interesting is the mechanism behind the camera control button. So the camera control button, Apple hasn't said that it is a physical button, although if you listen, it does click. So it is a physical button. And it offers a lot of controls inside the camera app, as well as some other apps. So I know Holiday, as well as the Final Cut camera app from Apple, support the capture button as of right now, to my knowledge. There are probably other apps out there that are working on it and going to work on it. I know Apple said Snapchat would, although right now it does not work. And Snapchat, come on, I think it would be interesting. I would like to have it as someone who uses Snapchat. But hey, then again, whenever you bring it, you bring it. And I just hope this isn't like the Twitter widget that Apple showcased in WWDC 2020 and we never got it. But hey, I'm not going to be salty about it because maybe it'll come in the future. So once you click it once and you're into the camera button, you have the ability to press it again and get whatever frequently selected control you have. So I always have mine by default just on the zoom because that's what I feel I use a lot. And to have that kind of just swipe on my phone to zoom in and out has actually been amazing. And it's something that I didn't think I would like a lot. And frankly, didn't even find myself using in the beginning. So if you now double click it, you then get basically brought to all of the camera control menus. So you can adjust the exposure, the depth, the zoom, as I mentioned, which camera you're using, your styles, and your tone. Now, once you kind of select some of these, they do have their own menu, like the camera lenses. Although if you go ahead and select the styles or something, it'll go ahead and scroll. But if you want to go ahead and get them more fine-tuned like Apple showcased at their event, you are going to have to essentially like go out of that menu and touch it on the screen. So it's a little unuser intuitive. Now, there is one thing I recommend changing, which is essentially the force required to use a press. So if you go ahead and watch the video that I have linked up here about that, because this was one of the best things I've changed to make the capture button so much more useful. Now, as someone who uses their iPhone to create a lot of content, one thing I've noticed is this button is placed in such a poor place. So the placement of the button, as you might have seen before, when I hold my phone is actually just kind of out of reach when I'm filming like this, whether it be of myself, landscape, it's out of reach from where it is. So I kind of have to do this weird, like, hold my phone, almost like I'm holding an iPad. Now, yes, I do have the 16 Pro Max, so I do have the bigger phone. Although I do know people who had the 16 Pro, and because it's in basically the same spot, they've said the same thing, that when you hold your phone sideways and go to use it, it's just kind of in a weird spot. And as someone who will go to take pictures or something like that, once you rest your finger on that capture button, your phone essentially just takes over the whole screen. It will basically disregard any camera controls that are physically on the screen, like the zoom, the flash. So it just makes taking a photo a lot harder because now you're kind of like juggling your phone. And I know a lot of people have said this, even like going ahead and to click the button, you find yourself shaking. I've noticed that as well, but it's actually, I don't think as bad as people are saying once you adjust the setting, as I said, through accessibility. Now, adjusting in accessibility has really been game-changing for me. But where I think this button is actually going to set us up for the iPhone 17 and even the future iPhones, iPads, is because of the fact that Apple now has basically a button that can do anything on our phones. So you know how if you want to get to Siri, you have to press and hold the power button in to get to Siri, and now you have basically lost the power off menu, because if you want to power off, you have to hit volume and power button and then slide. So now Apple can basically just allow you to tap on the power button just like you can on the camera control button to get to more menus. So you can, tap, slide to power off, select slide to power off. Our volume buttons can be condensed, and instead of having two, we can have one that you can just slide up to go up, slide down to go down. The action button can also be replaced to allow basically just more actions. Now, do I think Apple may do this? Maybe. I also think we may get Touch ID back as a result of this. So the capture button design is actually very similar to that of the iPad Air that has Touch ID and any iPad that has Touch ID in the power button. And when Apple brought this back in 2020, as someone who hasn't had an iPad in a while, I was intrigued by the iPad Air's redesign and bringing Touch ID to the power button. And I have it now in my M1 iPad Air, and I absolutely love the ability to just press my power button and have it work as Touch ID. So I do truly think maybe there is a way Apple can kind of work their magic to get this to be basically a touch capacitive button, just like it is, just add in that fingerprint sensor, which then, as I said before, you can replace my power button with, and then you can give me Touch ID on my iPhone, as well as so many more controls just from one button, which I would think is going to be so cool. Now, let me know if you have an iPhone 16 series, what your thoughts are on the capture button, because I'm in neutral about it. I use it, but then I find myself kind of going back to the screen, so I'll zoom in with this, and then I'll press on the screen. But that's just the way I feel like I use it, although I know there are so many other people out there who like it, don't like it, and hey, it's most likely going to stick around. So if we see it expanded to the rest of the buttons, I won't be upset. And while you're down there, if you want to hit like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that as well. But I want you to remember that today's a good day to make a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.